Let me also go across to Ramnik Mann. The other big issue is that they keep raising this Niger issue, but they're not actually addressing the underlying factor behind who this Niger fellow was, what his videos are telling us, what his actions in Canada on Canadian soil are telling us, and what several other groups' actions are telling us. Most recently, such a public attack on Hindus celebrating Diwali in Canada, and nothing happens. Why don't you address that issue? Then people will take you seriously.
Okay. Good evening, Shivani, and good evening to all the fellow panelists. Yes, there has been a problem, and the problem is not with Justin Trudeau alone, but it has been systematic over the years. I would tell you for a fact that the Canadians have not filed a complaint, not less, filed a case. There has been no investigation, serious investigation, if I may. There has been no trial, there has been no prosecution, and there has been no punishment. So, in a sense, the government of Canada, the legal justice system of Canada, has been encouraging such acts of violence and crime against Indian origin, people of Indian origin, which include Hindus and Sikhs both equally.
Both, yes.
Yes. I mean, they have been vandalizing the temples, but they have also been attacking Sikhs who have spoken or stood for India. Indian flag in that country with these elements is something, they really need to take seriously. As a matter of fact, if you go a step further, we have diplomats with us here and they will agree that diplomacy is based on mutual reciprocity. So when, let us say, Melanie Jolie says that we need to discuss diplomacy in private. We need to discuss diplomacy in private, and their Prime Minister stands on the floor of the Parliament in the House of Commons and he makes credible allegations which have not been substantiated by any credible evidence. Now, if they have anything on their hands, they should come out with it. And in the meanwhile, what the Canadian legal justice system should do is, they should now look back in time and see that, were they able to punish anybody for the Kanishka bombing? No, they could not. In time, the government of India then had asked for, sending Talvinder Parmar, the prime accused, back to India. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. So the legal justice system, when they talk about the rule of law is not existing in a first world country. They like to believe I personally somehow feel, I'm sorry, Mr. Miliski, it's not for you, but it is for Justin Trudeau. He suffers with a white man syndrome. He thinks he's superior. He's going to come out with something, and all the, Western countries, 5 other countries will support him. That's not going to happen. And India is not the only country he has a diplomatic crisis with. He has a crisis now running with Israel. So they now need to wake up and smell their coffee. They need to take action against these people who are vandalizing temples, who are disrupting Indians, who are trying to defame and who are trying to, deface the Indian flag. So
absolutely.
Unless that happens,
these are actions that will not
Shivani,
be...
10 more seconds.
Yeah.
Shivani, 10 more seconds. Unless that happens, that they show their seriousness, I would, like to believe that Canada is quickly becoming the Pakistan of West. That's what Canada is becoming.
Well, the Indian External Affairs Minister has quoted both Canada and Pakistan in the same breath, and he has continued to harp on that point, that extremism and violent means of whatever movement that you may try to garb under freedom of speech or freedom of protest is not going to go down very well in India. And Terry, would you like to respond to what Ramnik Mann said about the white man syndrome, that we come out and say, and you'll have to just trust us? Also, the fact that this age of trying to play these cards of separatism and these groups working from your soil against India, that's not going to work in today's day and age against this India. Times change. They have to reevaluate.
Well, he's right in this sense that the Canadian justice system certainly did fail in the Kanishka bombing. It was a disaster. I had a front row seat. I sat through the whole trial, the whole inquiry, and it was a farce in many respects. The Indian side is completely correct about that. However, it's not true to say that nobody was punished, by the way. This just may seem like a small detail, but the bomb maker in that case was indeed convicted 3 times and was sentenced to a total of 34 years in prison, actually served about almost 29 years. It may seem like a detail, a small thing, but not to him, I bet. But the question still remains, though, why is Canada not making its evidence public? because all of this would go away, wouldn't it? If the Canadians laid their cards on the table, as they say they did at the official level prior to the G20 summit when Trudeau and Modi met. If they laid those cards on the table, then we wouldn't be having this problem.
Okay.
And either
But
it
that
would be
only-
credible or it would be not. And
that
it'd be
only tackles
perfectly
one
possible.
part of the problem. I fundamentally feel that that is only one side of the problem. The other side is the bigger problem for India, which is the
Yes.
repeated provocations against Indian missions, Indian flag, Indian diplomats, and the
Absolutely.
Indian community in Canada. Something needs to be
and
done
you-
about that too.
And for 40 years, Canada has been looking the other way. And yes, for 20 years I've been saying, look, there's a scent of racism here, and the indifference which Canada displayed to the victims and the victims' families of the Kanishka bombing. There's no way around it. I mean, you can well imagine that the investigation by the police might have been much more energetic if it had been otherwise, and it was a plane load of
Absolutely.
nice ladies, white ladies from Toronto. There's no way around that. But the fact remains that the murder and intimidation of witnesses was successful. It wasn't all because the Canadian government failed. It was because of the aggressive tactics, the murderous tactics of the culprits.